I wasn't supposed to be home that weekend. It was one of those accidental layovers, a flight rerouted, a delay too long to justify a hotel. I texted Mom half-heartedly, unsure if they'd even notice my return. Her reply was brief. Sure, just for the night. There's space on the couch. The words didn't sting until I reread them. The couch. Not your room. Not we'll make it cozy. Just a sterile confirmation that I wasn't expected. Not really. Not anymore. Still, I went. Foolishly, maybe. Maybe. Just to feel something. It had been 5 months since I moved out for grad school. I left behind my room, my shelves of notebooks, my quiet haven of childhood tucked between cream-colored walls. They said they'd keep it the same, in case you need to come home for the holidays. But I never did. Not once, until that night. The house smelled the same, drier sheets and faint cinnamon. But something felt displaced. I noticed it as soon as I stepped inside. Not in the foyer, but in the silence. A silence filled with avoidance. I barely had time to drop my bag before I saw it. My room, or what used to be my room, had a new door. Painted soft pink, with a paper cutout that read, Princess Emma's Nursery. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. My name had been erased, replaced with glitter sticker letters that had never spelled me. I opened the door slowly. Gone were the books. Gone were the string lights, the scuffed desk, the pile of college acceptance letters I once pinned to the wall in secret triumph. In their place stood a white crib, plush elephants, a pastel wallpaper border that crawled around the walls like... I stood there quietly, trying not to cry, not because I was angry, but because I was surprised at how not surprised I was. My mother's voice floated down the hall. Oh, good, you made it. Don't go in there, Emma's sleeping. I turned. She was holding a baby bottle like a prop in a sitcom, her eyes already scanning past me, not looking at me, looking through. I thought I could stay in my room, I said. It came out soft, unintended, embarrassed. She blinked like she hadn't heard me. Well, you don't need a room anymore, sweetie. You're an adult now. She smiled as if it were a compliment. An adult. That word again. Not a daughter. Not someone with roots in that house. Just an adult. One with no claim, no corner, no space. I nodded. Because what else could I do? I slept on the couch that night, curled like luggage left in a forgotten terminal. Every creak of the floorboard upstairs reminded me that someone else, a new someone, had inherited my place. A place I paid for in silence, in A+ report. Cards in the years I babysat for free so they could just run out for a minute. Emma was my brother's daughter. And my brother, well, he'd always had a key to doors I was never allowed to touch. I didn't sleep that night. The cushions on the couch still sank in the middle from where Dad always sat. The same imprint, the same faded fleece blanket draped over the arm. The TV glowed quietly in the background, some crime drama left on mute. But the only thing I could hear was the lullaby spilling faintly through the floorboards, a melody meant for someone else's dreams. I used to hum that tune when I was 10, back when I thought I wanted to be a teacher, and would line up my stuffed animals across the foot of my bed and assign them homework. That room, it had seen every version of me. Every sob muffled into a pillow, every proud moment scribbled into a diary I kept hidden under the third drawer. It wasn't just walls, it was mine. And now, it smelled like baby powder and someone else's future. I turned onto my side, the coils of the couch groaning beneath me. Across the room, there were still picture frames on the wall. My family, all of us. Except when I looked closer, I noticed the most recent ones had been rearranged. Center stage now was a photo of my brother holding Emma at the hospital. Beside it, Mom and Dad, all beaming. And me? There was a frame missing, the photo from my college graduation, the one I mailed home since they couldn't come, was gone. I remembered how I paid for the cap and gown myself, rushed to get a tripod, took the picture alone by the ivy wall. I emailed it with the subject line, in case you want to frame it for the hallway. I guess they didn't. The next morning, I folded the blanket neatly before anyone woke up. Mom was in the kitchen, already stirring something into a pot. Not oatmeal, not pancakes, just formula. She looked up briefly and smiled like she had to. Sleep. Okay, I wanted to say. I didn't sleep at all. Instead, I said, yeah, the couch is fine. I use that word, fine. The word you say when you're too tired to explain what it really feels like to be replaced. Dad came down in his robe, grunted, something that passed for mourning, then turned the TV on full volume. I waited for someone to ask if I was staying for breakfast, if I wanted coffee, if I needed anything at all. They didn't. My brother arrived shortly after, holding Emma like a trophy. His girlfriend trailed behind, the kind of woman who always smelled like hairspray and said, "aw," like punctuation. She nodded at me but didn't say hello. We finally painted the room, my brother announced. Took forever to get the shade right. Mom beamed. It's called Petal Mist. Isn't that lovely? I didn't answer. I was still holding the same chipped mug I used since high school, the one they left on the back shelf. It had a faded cartoon owl and the words, "Who needs coffee?" Only now, there was a crack near the handle. I traced it with my thumb. Hope you don't mind, my brother added. We figured you didn't need it anymore. The room, I mean, my dad chimed. You know, you're doing great now. Grad school, city life, you're grown up. Don't cling to the past. Cling? I felt the breath leave my body in a quiet, dignified way, like a balloon untied and drifting. Later that day, I walked past the door again, Princess Emma's nursery, the same spot where I once taped the letter of my first scholarship, where I wrote, "Do not enter" in glitter pen and stuck it on the frame, where I cried the night they forgot my 15th birthday because they were too busy organizing a fundraiser for my brother's baseball team. No one remembered that, of course. No one remembers the quiet ones. The good ones, the ones who didn't yell, or slam doors or beg to be seen. We just disappear. A little more each year. That night I took my bag and left before anyone could hug me goodbye. They didn't notice. Or if they did, they didn't mention it. I stood at the bus stop with my coat zipped to the chin, looking back one last time at the house that raised me and forgot me. My room was glowing softly upstairs, warm and pink and full of lullabies. And all I could think was, they were right. I didn't need a room anymore. But one day, they'd realize they no longer had a daughter either. There's a kind of silence you carry with you long after the noise fades. It rides the train with you. Waits in the checkout line. It even follows you into the shower, humming beneath the faucet like memory. The morning I got back to my apartment, I didn't unpack. I dropped the overnight bag on the floor and sat at the edge of my bed, still wearing yesterday's clothes. The smell of formula and floor cleaner still clung to my coat. I looked around my space. It wasn't much. Second floor walk-up, no elevator, faint smell of incense from the neighbor's room. But it was mine. No one moved my things. No one painted over my memories. No one replaced me. And still, part of me wanted to cry. Not because I missed them, but because I realized how long I had been hoping they'd change. That night, I pulled out an old notebook from the drawer. The cover was bent, pages curling at the corners. I used to journal every night in high school, mostly to write down things I couldn't say out loud. I hadn't touched it in years, but now, my hands moved like they remembered. I made a list. Things I gave up without a fight. The summer trip to D.C. I stayed home to watch Jason when the sitter bailed. They said, "You'll get your turn." The music scholarship. I turned it down because they couldn't afford the flights. They never said thank you, just, "It's not practical anyway." My high school graduation dinner, postponed. Because Emma was teething. Rescheduled. Then forgotten. The bedroom with the big window, originally mine. Given to my brother when he turned 12 because he's a growing boy. The college they said we'd tour together. They went on vacation instead. Sent me a brochure in the mail. The house key. I never had one. "You don't live here anymore," Dad said last Christmas when I knocked in the rain. I stopped writing. My pen hovered over the paper. There were more. Too many more. But I was tired of remembering only to forgive before anyone even asked. Tired of turning the knife inward, just so no one else had to feel it. Tired of pretending that being the understanding one didn't leave a scar. The next morning, I got a text from Mom. "Hope you made it back okay. Let us know when you're free to babysit next week. Emma loves her auntie." No greeting. No apology. No, "Sorry the room was gone," or "Sorry we didn't make you feel welcome." Just expectation. Just assumption. Like I was some sort of emotional Airbnb. Free labor. Background comfort. I didn't reply. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then I turned my phone face down and made coffee. Strong. Bitter. No sugar. The way grief tastes when it hardens. I thought about deleting her message. Then I thought about changing my number. Instead, I opened my bank app and canceled the auto transfer. Every month I had sent them a small sum. Just until they recover from the renovations, Mom once said. Just enough to cover some bills. Just enough to keep me tethered. But I was done funding a house I wasn't welcome in. I clicked the button. Transfer canceled. I didn't text. I didn't explain. Let the silence arrive before the heating bill. I was 9 the first time they asked me to give something up. Just for a while. It was the bedroom with the big window. Our house only had 3 rooms upstairs. One for Mom and Dad, one for me, and a smaller one that was being used for storage then, full of boxes labeled Xmas and Jason's baby stuff. The summer Jason turned 5, they decided he was old enough for his own room. They didn't clear out the storage space. They cleared out mine. I remember standing in the hallway in my pajamas, clutching the stuffed rabbit Grandma gave me, the one with one ear sewn back on with pink thread. I was watching as Dad pulled my desk apart, piece by piece, carrying it into the smaller room down the hall. Mom folded my bedding, humming like it was a normal Saturday chore. "You're such a good big sister," she said. "And this will be cozier anyway, less sunlight to wake you early." I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I moved into the small room that still smelled like dust and cardboard, and tried to pretend the sunlight didn't matter. But I missed it. Every morning. The way the sun used to hit the wall just right, lighting up the corner where I used to draw in my sketchbook before school. I stopped sketching after that, said I grew out of it. But really, I just didn't feel like making anything beautiful in a room that was never meant for me. That memory found me again while I was cleaning my apartment that weekend. It came back all at once, the way kids remember things not in full sentences but in colors and angles, the way light used to fall across a pillow, the scrape of cardboard on hardwood, the quiet. I stopped mid-sweep and leaned on the broom like it could hold me up. It had been so easy for them to ask, and so hard for me to ever say no. On Sunday afternoon, I got another message, this time from Jason. Mom said you're free Tuesday. Can you watch Emma while we go to the appointment? No greeting. No, how are you? Just the assumption that I would drop everything again, for them. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, I'm not available, just that. No lie, no excuse, no softening. And when he replied with, why not? It's just a few hours. I didn't write back because the answer was 17 years long. That night, I found the old sketchbook. It was tucked in a shoebox I had labeled Donate months ago, filled with odds and ends I hadn't gotten around to tossing. The pages were yellowed at the edges, but some of the pencil lines were still sharp. There was a drawing I didn't remember making, a window, with sunlight spilling onto a desk, a little girl's hand holding a pencil. I closed the book slowly. Some part of me still remembered what it felt like to have space. Not just physical space, but emotional space. The room to want things, the right to keep them, the audacity to not be interrupted. I lit a candle and let the wax burn slow. It was raining outside, soft and steady, and for the first time in years, I felt something I couldn't quite name. Not peace, not yet, but something that tasted like it. It was Jason's birthday the next weekend. Not a milestone year, just 31, but they made a whole event out of it. A backyard lunch, balloons, matching shirts that said, Best Dad Ever, and a 3-tier cake with Emma's handprint. On the middle layer, saw it all through pictures. Not because I was invited, but because Aunt Mel accidentally tagged me in a post. There it was. My entire family standing in front of the barbecue grill, all arms around each other like the world was whole. Emma sat on Jason's shoulders. Mom and Dad flanked him, each holding a corner of a banner that read, Family First, Family First. I stared at the words longer than I should have. I scrolled through the album slowly. It was a digital gallery of laughter, cousins clinking, drinks, uncles telling stories, my mother kissing Emma's cheek with closed eyes and a soft, worshipful smile. I kept waiting to see if I was maybe in the background. Maybe I had been invited and forgotten. Maybe there was a missed text, a lost call, some explanation. But I wasn't there. Not in the photos, not in the comments, not even in the captions. And that kind of erasure, it doesn't shout. It just echoes. I didn't call them. I didn't ask why I wasn't invited. Didn't send a passive message. Didn't leave a sarcastic comment under the photo like I used to when I was trying to be the fun one. Instead, I looked at the photo one last time. Noted how they were all standing in the same spot where I once spent a summer repainting, the patio by hand. When Dad's back gave out and Jason didn't have time, I remembered how I scraped off layers of old paint, brushed on a fresh coat in the August heat, and came inside sunburned and dizzy. Mom gave me a warm Gatorade and said, "You're so helpful, sweetheart. You're going to make a great wife one day. Not a great person, not a great artist, not a great me, just something to be useful to someone else." That night, I untagged myself, not out of spite, but self-preservation. I didn't want to keep being a ghost in their scrapbook. I took a walk afterward, through my neighborhood, and the teal air smelled like someone was cooking garlic, and the pavement was still damp from a passing storm. A little girl on a balcony blew bubbles down onto the street. I caught one on my palm and watched it shimmer. Somewhere between the stoplight and the corner cafe, I realized something. I hadn't missed them. Not the gathering. Not the questions. Not the subtle jokes at my expense. Not the look Dad gave me. When I said I wasn't dating anyone serious yet, I missed the idea of them. The version I had clung to. But the real version? The one who erased me from the photo and told me to sleep on the couch? That version didn't deserve my ache anymore. When I got home, I made tea and opened my sketchbook again. This time I drew the couch. My old body curled into it. One blanket, one girl, alone. Then I drew the same girl, standing, outside the house, on the sidewalk, bag in hand, head turned slightly upward, not escaping, leaving. The message came 2 days later. From Mom this time. "Saw you weren't at Jason's birthday. Everyone missed you. You could have said something. Don't be so sensitive, sweetheart. Love you." There it was, that familiar pairing of dismissal and affection. A pat on the head after the shove. I stared at the words for a long time. Don't be so sensitive. It was the same thing they used to say when I cried in the car after they laughed about my college major. When I came home quiet from school and they told me I was too moody. When I once told Mom I didn't feel like anyone saw me and she said, "Well, maybe you should try being a little louder." I never learned how to be louder. I only learned how to disappear without causing a scene. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have things to say, but because I knew she wouldn't hear them. Not really. The moment I started speaking about how I felt, the moment I used the word hurt, she'd recoil, deflect, turn the spotlight onto herself and how hard she tries, how ungrateful I've become. So I didn't reply. But I did go to my bank again. That quiet, almost sacred place now. The one place where I still had power, where I could click and unclick things they depended on. I remembered something else that night. Years ago, when I was still living at home, I had helped Mom set up automatic drafts for the bills. Water, electric, internet. She never really liked tech, never trusted websites. I used my student email to sign us up for paperless billing. I'd almost forgotten that the accounts were all still listed under my name. Not hers. Because back then, she said, "I don't want to deal with all that. You're good at this kind of thing." And I was. Too good. Too helpful. I opened the utilities dashboard. Sure enough, I was still listed as primary account holder. She'd never changed it. Maybe didn't even realize she needed to. I hovered over the settings button, paused, then clicked Cancel Auto Pay 1 by 1. Gas, electric, water, gone. Not out of revenge, out of clarity. Because they said I didn't need a room anymore, so maybe they didn't need my name on the bills either. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't announce it, didn't make a show. I just lit a candle, drew another small sketch in the corner of my notebook. This time, a door, gently closing, the doorknob, still in view. The girl's hand letting go, and outside the window, a sky beginning to turn gold. The first call came on a Thursday afternoon. I was in the middle of sketching, something abstract, something with sharp corners and soft shadows, when my phone buzzed once and lit up. Momi watched the name flicker across the screen like a bad signal. For a second, I imagined answering, just to hear the tone, just to see if it started with "Hi, sweetie" or something more loaded. But I didn't move. I let it ring, then stop. A few seconds later, the screen lit up again. New voicemail. Waited, boiled water, poured tea, sat on the couch, the one I chose, the one no one else had ever slept on or displaced me from. Then, with the kind of deliberate calm I was still learning how to practice, I opened the voicemail. Her voice was too chipper, and that made it worse. "Hey, honey? It's Mom. Just wondering if you know anything about the gas bill. We got a weird notice. Probably nothing. Maybe a system error? Anyway, if you could look into it, that'd be great. Thanks, sweetheart. Talk soon." No. How are you? No acknowledgement of the birthday they hadn't invited me to. No mention of the couch, the crib, the nursery. Just a default expectation that I'd still be useful. I didn't call back. I didn't forward the bill. I didn't log in. I closed my eyes and listened to the rest of the voicemail. There was a pause at the end. About 2 seconds. Long. The kind of pause you only notice when you've spent years reading between silences. And in that space, I heard everything she didn't say, that she had assumed I'd always be there. That help was owed, not appreciated, that I was still, somewhere in her mind, the girl who gave up her bedroom and called it love. By Saturday, there were 3 more missed calls, then a text from Jason. "Hey, Mom says the Wi-Fi's down and she's freaking out. Can you reset it or something? Not sure what's going on." Again, no greeting, no context, no mention of last week, or last year, or the last 17 times they left me out, talked over me, handed me scraps and called it gratitude. I typed one word, no, then I deleted it, typed another. Figure it out, then deleted that too. In the end, I said nothing, just put the phone away. Later that night, I opened the utility portal again. Gas, overdue. Water, pending shutoff. Internet, suspended due to payment failure. All their names still listed under mine. All of it, mine. And for the first time, I saw it clearly. I had been the scaffolding for their comfort. Invisible. Necessary. Taken for granted. And now that I was stepping away, they were left standing in a house that didn't know how to hold itself up. I didn't feel smug. I didn't feel vengeful. I felt quiet. Like a tide that had pulled back far enough to reveal what was buried under the sand. The next morning, it rained. Hard. I curled up by my window with a blanket and a black pen and drew the silhouette of a house. The lights off, shadows in. The window. Then I drew the girl, walking past it, umbrella in hand, a scarf trailing behind her. She doesn't stop. She doesn't look back. She just keeps walking. The knock came just after 9 p.m., not loud, not rushed, just there. I paused, mug in hand, standing barefoot on the kitchen tile. For a moment, I thought it might be my neighbor again, the one who always forgot her keys. But something in my chest knew. I didn't check the peephole. I didn't have to. When I opened the door, Mom stood there, rain on her coat, purse clutched too tightly, hair frizzed at the ends. She looked smaller than I remembered. Behind her, the hallway was quiet. The kind of quiet you can't walk away from once it's broken. "Hi," she said. I didn't move. I didn't smile. I didn't invite her in. She looked over my shoulder, like she was searching for proof that I was doing fine without them. "I didn't know where else to go," she said, as if that explained everything. I waited. She took a breath. "The heating got cut off," she whispered, like it was a secret she didn't know how to carry. "And Jason's been trying to fix the bills, but it's all still under your name. I didn't realize. I thought you thought I didn't need a room anymore," I said. It wasn't angry. It wasn't bitter. It was just true. Her face twitched, the way people flinch when a memory hits harder than they expect. "I didn't mean for you to feel pushed out, but I was," I said. "And you knew. You just didn't stop it." She looked down, blinked fast. The silence between us thickened, not with rage, but with the weight of things that had festered too long to be repaired. "I think we need you," she said finally. And that was the thing, wasn't it? They needed me. But only when something broke, never when something bloomed. I stepped aside for a moment, not to let her in, but to pick up the envelope I'd left by the table. It was thin, contained a single printed page, the utility transfer, confirmation. I had finally submitted the change of ownership last night. Every account, every login, every password. I held the envelope out. She took it slowly. Her hands were shaking. "I left everything clean," I said. "It's yours now. All of it." She looked up. I think she wanted me to hug her, to soften, to cry. But I had done enough of that already. Alone. In silence. "You're always welcome," she started. "No," I said gently. "I was never welcome. Just convenient." The look on her face was something I'll never forget. Not heartbreak, not anger, just recognition. The first time she really saw me, and maybe the last. She left without asking to come in. Didn't try to argue, didn't promise to change. Just took the envelope and stepped back into the rain. I closed the door quietly, locked it once, then twice. Not out of fear, but finality. Later that night, I lit a candle and turned off all the lights, sat at my desk, opened the sketchbook one last time, and drew the house again, but smaller now, fainter, the windows dark, the door closed. No figure outside, just an open road, and beside it, a new space, a window with light. A girl standing in her own room, one she chose, one she built, no crib, no banner, no borrowed air, just hers. Finally, hers.